Hey, how you doing? This is David Duford at Buy Life Insurance for Burial, where I help people like you find affordable life insurance. In today's presentation, I'm specifically talking about term life insurance options for seniors over 75. So if you are looking for term life insurance for a senior over 75, or if you're a senior who is 75 or older and you're trying to find term insurance on yourself or a loved one, stick around and watch this presentation because the goal is to answer those questions and show you what your options are. So let's get started. So a quick overview of what to expect today. I'm going to introduce you formally to myself as well as my company, and then tell you how term life insurance works for seniors over 75, as well as talk about why seniors purchase life insurance or term life insurance over 75 years of age, and then also the options available to seniors over 75 for term life insurance. Then we'll talk about riders, definitions, types available, whether or not you need to do an exam, and then how much you can qualify for, and then ask the question and answer the question, what if your health is bad? Then describe how to qualify and then take the next steps in moving forward. So my name is David Duford. I own and am the founder of BuyLifeInsuranceForBurial.com. Again, I help people find affordable and quality life insurance across the country. I've been licensed since 2011 and have helped over 3,000 families with their life insurance needs. I'm a published author of the official guide to buying final expense life insurance. You can see that below. I'm also a recruiter. I own an agency. I train agents in their communities to help them help people who live in their communities with life insurance. And I'm also married and have my fourth child on the way as of the filming of this video. So let's talk about term insurance in generic terms just to make sure we're on the same page here. So we want to know how term life insurance works for seniors over 75. So term insurance, by definition, is a life insurance product that provides a death benefit over a predetermined period of time. Now, generally, premiums will remain the same during the term of which you buy the plan. So if it's a 10-year term, they say the same for 10 years. If it's 15, it's 15, so on and so forth. Term insurance is known as one of the best ways to get the most coverage for the least premium spent. So when I say that, if you're just looking to try to get as much coverage as you can, term insurance is pure insurance. There's no cash value component or anything like that with a lot of other life insurance products. It's just straight insurance. And once you're approved, the idea behind term insurance is that for seniors over 75, it just pretty much works like any other term insurance product. So if you die within the term period of time, whatever the amount of coverage is paid out to your beneficiary. So some reasons why you would want to own term insurance if you're a senior over 75. These are some that I've run into that I'll just share with you as an experience. So funeral expenses. Maybe you're concerned about the rising cost of being buried or cremated, or maybe any costs associated with a funeral, and you want a policy to cover that. A term life insurance plan for seniors over 75 can do that. Same thing with cremation expenses. Another driver is income replacement. I have stories of couples where one worked and has a pension, but it doesn't transfer upon death to the surviving spouse. They opted not for that to happen. So there is a need to replace that income upon passing because the lifestyle of the surviving spouse would have to dramatically change. So you can buy a term insurance plan to cover for a period of time if that were to actually happen. Also, a gift of love. Maybe you just want to leave money behind to a daughter, a son, or a grandchild, and you want to help them out. That's what my grandfather did for my mother, helped out tremendously. Or perhaps you owe money on a mortgage, and you want to protect against that mortgage having to be assumed by your surviving spouse, and you want to keep the house in the family, or just pay off the thing altogether when you pass away, if you pass before you pay it off. A term life insurance plan is perfect for that, or some kind of debt pay down. So also, options for term life insurance for seniors over 75. I'm going to talk to you about what is actually available, and then we'll show you some prices. So most commonly what you're going to run into is a 10-year term insurance product. As you get up there in age, the availability of much else becomes less and less. There are sometimes the options for 15-year terms, and then if you need to have coverage beyond a 15-year period of time, then we can do what's called a universal life plan, which kind of acts like a term plan, and you just design it to cover how much ever time you need, maybe to 95 or 100, that kind of thing. So let's take a look at some prices and samples of coverage amounts. And so just to demonstrate here, I'm just going to show you a 75-year-old plan, or 75-year-old rates for females and males, non-smoker, for $100,000 in term life insurance. And we're going to look at 10 years, 15 years, and then demonstrate what this universal life plan does and better define how that means. Okay, so we're looking at a 75-year-old male, non-tobacco, 15-year term for $100,000 in coverage. So these are just a small sampling of the companies that I represent. You're looking at the upper 200s to the lower 300s, and these are all for preferred rates. Your rates may be higher than this, understand, because you may have less than ideal health, so they can go up substantially higher. Again, this idea here is not to tell you what you will qualify for at all. The idea is just to tell you kind of an idea of what to expect. If you wanted to lower your coverage amount, you can always look at a 10-year term, and not your coverage, but your length of time you're covered, and so that will in return lower the price to a certain extent. And again, we're looking at different price points. You've got, for example, Sagicor, you got Legal and General, Banner Life, Cincinnati Life, different options. Now we're looking at a female for 10-year, $100,000 term. You're looking at same companies here, and then if we ratchet that up to a 15-year term, again, the price goes up correspondingly because you're covered for a longer period of time. And again, this is totally unrelated to what you would qualify for, again, just to show you a price point beginning. Okay, so now what we're looking at here are what's called no-lapse universal life plans. The concept behind these plans is that it's permanent protection that lasts well beyond the 10 or 15-year term life limit. So as long as you pay the premiums, you have the coverage in force. They do cost more than a term plan, but you never have the risk of outliving it. So if your needs require permanent protection, you don't want to take the risk of outliving it, then these are options for you. So for example, a male for $100,000 in coverage is looking just at about $400 a month for a no-lapse universal life plan. If we look at a female, $100,000 in coverage, depending on the company, you're looking at between $340s to $370s. Again, these are preferred rates. They may be higher. We can go down the list here and you can see the prices do go up based off if you're standard rate or preferred. That just tells you, where your risk category is and how your health interplays with that. So now that you've taken a look at some of the options that there are for term life insurance, as well as covering beyond a 10 or 15-year term period, let's look at some potential riders and define what a rider is on an insurance policy. So to basically think of them as an add-on. You pay a little bit extra premium, but you get these additional benefits that ride on to the policy, if that makes sense. So the kind of ones that may be available to you depending on the company include a critical illness plan, where if you're diagnosed with a stroke, heart attack, or cancer, there's a lump sum payment that's paid out to you while you're alive. Potentially a return of premium plan may be available, or if you pay into a plan for so many years, you get your premiums back. That does cost an additional fee. Accelerated death benefit, where you're diagnosed as terminally ill, and a portion of your face amount of your coverage is paid to you while you still live, so you can use the money while you're alive. Also, nursing home riders at paid benefit if you're confined to a nursing home under certain terms and conditions. And again, key thing here is just to show you there's ways to kind of improve upon your policy with riders if you like that kind of thing, and they will cost additional amounts. Now, you may be wondering, should you get an exam, or is an exam expected when you apply for a term life insurance product if you're a senior 75 or older? So what my experience is, it just depends on your health and depends on how much coverage you're getting too. So an exam, just to define, it usually includes a physical and typically a blood and urinalysis. Some carriers just require literally a signature, and they'll check your records and give you an instant decision or some kind of phone interview. But a lot of these companies are going to potentially ask you for an exam. Why? Because at your age, it's potentially more concerning, especially as you get more and more coverage. Sometimes the $25,000 and the $50,000 amounts won't require an exam. If your health is sufficient enough, they'll just pull medical records and take some time to look at attending physician statements, so like your doctors. They'll review their notes to make determinations on health. But taking an exam is something you may have to be prepared for. If that's the case with me, it's very simple. We just correspond with a local representative who comes into your home, or you go to their facility, whatever you're comfortable with, and they're very professional. They get the job done. It's fairly simple. But the reason you have to take the exam in some circumstances is because of the coverage amount and your age. But many times you take an exam, it will get you a better price too than if you just did simplified issue and paid a tremendous amount more. And again, you may not need to take the exam if you don't have a large amount of coverage. And when we say large, If it's 25 to 50,000, it might be that you don't need to take an exam, but I'm not going to say for sure because it's going to come down to your individual circumstances. As far as how much coverage you can get, as long as you work with a broker, it should be fairly easy to get the amount of coverage that you need. Generally speaking, the minimums are 25 to 50,000 depending on the company. I can tell you that with term insurance, you're probably looking at closer to a 50,000 minimum. With the no lapse universal life, you're looking at maybe 25,000 minimum. Maximums for non-meds just depends on the company. When we say non-meds, non-examination companies, it's more likely it's going to be a smaller amount, where if you're younger, it would be a higher amount they'd allow without an exam. So probably closer to the $250,000 amount. Just depends on the companies. And if you're looking for a lot of coverage, yeah, you're probably going to get an exam, and you can get multi-millions in coverage if you can qualify for it. Let's answer that question. So can you actually qualify for term life insurance as a senior 75 or older? In most cases, the thing is that what I want to clarify and say is can you qualify for term insurance? Maybe. Can you qualify for life insurance? Sure. So it all comes down to your health. And what bad health really means is kind of how we have to approach this. So how do I know if somebody won't qualify for a term life insurance product if they're a senior 75 or older? Well, they probably have COPD. If the person has progressive insulin usage because they're progressively diabetic, maybe they've had a recent heart or cancer event, neurological problems, if they have severe mental health issues. These are some of the things just off the top of my head that could become an issue if you apply for some of these term insurance products. But that doesn't mean you can't apply with other life insurance products. So for example, let's look at some options. So you can actually get what's called first day full coverage whole life insurance, which the premium per dollar coverage is higher, but they have a lot more flexibility built in to what can be able to qualify. So for example, COPD, first day full coverage with a lot of companies in certain circumstances. Same thing with behavioral health. Even with heart and cancer histories, if 2 years beyond that happening, you may qualify for first day full coverage. So it may not be a large policy, but you could at least get something. So there are options out there for people who have bad health history. In worst case scenario, if you cannot qualify for anything else, as long as you're 85 or younger, you can qualify for a guaranteed issue of return of premium policy. So a return of premium policy forces a natural death waiting period of 2 years. So that means if you died within 2 years, they just refund your premiums plus usually 10% interest. So this is a good product if all else fails and you know you need some kind of coverage, just a basic plan. Those policies typically go up to $25,000 in coverage, and you can get more. There's ways to do that. I can help you with that if that is of interest to you. And the only reason you would consider something like this, and I don't want my clients to wait 2 years before they're fully covered, but the only reason I would recommend it if everything else failed. There was no other options for life insurance coverage. So here's the process of applying as a senior over 75 looking for term life insurance or just any kind of life insurance. First, pick a broker. You want to work with a broker. They shop around, try to find you the best price and coverage. They work with multiple companies. That's what I do. That's why I'm nominating myself for the job. I would run a quote after asking you some health questions and figuring out what your goals are. There's no obligations, completely confidential. If you like what you hear, the next step would be to complete an application. It's done all through the email or over the phone. There's no face-to-face visit required anymore for most companies. And then usually you get a decision fairly quick, within days or weeks, maybe longer depending if you have an examination. And then after that, you get your policy and you're done. That's it. So if you like what you heard today, if you like the idea of trying to apply for term life insurance or for any other kind of life insurance product, here's what you need to do. You can go to my website. It's buylifeinsuranceforburial.com. Check out the free quote there. Better to click the contact box to contact me at the top, or go to the bottom and click on the message box below. Send me a message. Tell me what you're looking for. Or just call me. 888-626-0439 is my number. I'll be happy to field your phone call. Leave a message if you don't reach me, and I promise I'll get back to you within a day's time. And leave a comment below. Give me a thumbs up, and definitely subscribe if you haven't already. And I got lots of videos like this I think you'd find useful. Again, David Dufour is my name at buylifeinsuranceforburial.com. Thank you.